The transport ship dropped out of hyperspace with a deep shudder that felt in her bones. Through the small window beside her seat, she could see Station Nexus 7 growing larger against the black canvas of space. It was massive, a spinning wheel of metal and light that held the most famous military academy in the known galaxy. She was not impressive to look at. Small frame, pale skin, dark hair cut short for practicality. Her eyes were the only remarkable thing about her, and even those seemed ordinary at first glance. They were dark brown, almost black, and they moved constantly, watching, recording, remembering. The other recruits on the transport were loud. A group of mantoid cadets clicked their mandibles in excitement, their compound eyes reflecting the station lights. Two massive Ursine warriors arm-wrestled in the back, their fur bristling with competitive energy. A female with 4 arms practiced blade forms in the aisle, her bioluminescent scales pulsing with each movement. Sat alone. She had a small bag on her lap containing everything she owned, 3 sets of clothes, a photograph of mountains she had never shown anyone. Nobody talked to her, nobody noticed her. This was exactly what she wanted. The transport docked with a metallic clang, and the recruits poured out into the receiving hall. It was enormous. The ceiling rose 50 meters above them, covered with flags from every species in the Galactic Alliance. Counted them quietly. 47 flags, 47 species that had produced warriors worthy of this academy. The human flag was there too, but it hung in a corner, small, faded, almost forgotten. Form lines by species. A voice boomed across the hall. Looked for the source and found him immediately. Instructor. She had studied his file during the journey. Male. 400 years old by human counting. Veteran of 37 combat campaigns. Undefeated in personal combat. He stood on a raised platform, his 4 arms crossed over his broad chest, his scales glowing with authority. She walked to the human section and found only one other person there. A young man about her age with kind eyes and nervous hands. His name tag read. "Just us," he whispered. Nodded. "Great," he muttered. 2 humans against the entire galaxy. This should be fun. Instructor began walking through the lines, inspecting the recruits. He spent long minutes with the mantoid group, nodding with approval at their natural blade arms. He tested the grip strength of the Ursine warriors and smiled when they nearly crushed his hand. He sparred briefly with the female and praised her form. Then he reached the human section. He stopped in front of first, looked him up and down, said nothing, moved on. When he stood before, something changed in his expression. It was not respect. It was not curiosity. It was the look a predator gives to something too small to eat. "Name?" he asked. "Full name." "Just." His eyes narrowed. Species designation: human, Earth, classification, persistence, predator. He said the last words like they were an insult. "Do you know what that means, little human?" Met his gaze without blinking. "It means we do not stop." For a moment something flickered in his eyes. Then he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "Persistence," he repeated to the assembled recruits. "That is what humans call their weakness. They cannot run faster than us. They cannot fight harder than us. They cannot see better or hear better or kill better than us. So they tell themselves stories about persistence, about endurance, about never giving up." He leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath smelled like copper. "This academy will show you what persistence really means, little human. It means watching others succeed while you fail. It means being left behind while real warriors advance. It means learning your place in the galaxy." Said nothing, she simply looked at him, watching, recording, remembering. That night in the small room she shared with a reptilian cadet named, lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Was already asleep, her scales making soft clicking sounds as she breathed. Did not sleep. She was thinking about Instructor, the way he walked, the slight favor he gave to his rear left leg, The pattern of his bioluminescence when he was pleased versus when he was angry. The micro-expressions that crossed his face before he spoke. She was building a file in her head. She did this with everyone. She could not help it. It was how her brain worked. While others saw people, she saw patterns. While others heard words, she heard intentions. While others felt emotions, she calculated probabilities. The door opened slightly and poked his head in. "Cannot sleep either," he whispered. She shook her head. He slipped inside and sat on the floor near her bed. The instructor really does not like humans. He does not understand humans, corrected quietly. Is there a difference? She thought about this for a moment. Yes, hate comes from understanding and rejecting. His feeling comes from ignorance. He looks at us and sees small bodies, weak muscles, slow reflexes. He sees what we lack. And what do you see when you look at him? Turned her head to look at. In the dim light, her dark eyes seemed to hold something ancient, something patient, something that had chased prey across endless plains for millions of years. "I see a teacher," she said simply. "He has much to show me." Did not understand what she meant. He would not understand for a long time, but he would remember this moment later when everything changed, and he would realize that had been hunting from the very first day. She had simply chosen not to let anyone see. The first week at the academy was designed to break spirits. Understood this immediately. Every test was built to show the recruits where they stood in the natural order of things, and for humans, that place was supposed to be at the bottom. The speed trials came first. Recruits had to run through a course filled with obstacles while being timed. The mantoid cadets finished in seconds, their 6 legs carrying them like wind through the turns and jumps. They used all 4 arms to swing and climb faster than seemed possible. Even the heavy Ursine warriors surprised everyone with their explosive bursts of power. Finished in the bottom 10. She did not run hard. She did not push herself. She walked parts of the course, stopping to look at the walls, the floor, the ceiling. The other recruits laughed when she crossed the finish line. The human gave up. A mantoid cadet with bright green chitin announced loudly. She does not even try. Instructor marked something on his. Noted. Human female shows no competitive drive. Recommend transfer to support roles. Ran to her side after his own run. He had pushed hard and still finished in the lower half. "What happened?" he asked, breathing hard. "You just stopped in the middle." "I was looking at the sensor placements," said calmly. "Why?" She did not answer. The strength tests were next. Recruits had to lift, push, and pull increasingly heavy weights. The Ursine cadets dominated completely. One of them, a massive female named Bora, lifted 3 times her body weight without showing strain. Her roar of victory shook the training hall. Lifted the minimum required weight and stopped. "Continue," instructor ordered. "No thank you," replied. Silence fell over the hall. Nobody refused an instructor. Nobody. Scales pulsed with anger. "You refuse." "I have shown I can lift what is required. Anything more would be showing off. I do not see the purpose." The other recruits whispered among themselves. This human was strange. Wrong. Did she not understand how things worked? Marked his again. His expression was unreadable. The reflex examinations followed. Light-based targets appeared and disappeared at random, and recruits had to touch them before they vanished. They were built for this. Their 4 arms gave them twice the reach, and their predator eyes tracked movement with perfect precision. Scored in the bottom third again, but noticed something odd. Her movements were slow, yes, but they were also deliberate. She was not failing to track the targets. She was choosing which ones to hit. "You can do better," he said to her quietly that night. "I have seen you move in the mornings when you think nobody is watching. You are faster than you show." Was doing stretches on her bed, her body folding in ways that seemed impossible for someone so small. Speed is not the point. Then what is? She stopped mid-stretch and looked at him with those dark, patient eyes. When you run fast, you learn nothing. When you run slow, you learn everything. I now know where every sensor is on the speed course. I know the exact weight limits of the strength machines. I know which targets in the reflex test are worth points and which are traps. Stared at her. You have been studying the tests instead of taking them. Yes. Why? Smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but it transformed her face for just a moment. Because anyone can pass a test, but only a hunter can understand how the test was built and who built it. The tactical simulation exercises started in the second week. Unlike the physical tests, these measured the mind. Recruits were placed in holographic battlefields and had to make decisions about combat, survival, and strategy. Scores were perfect. Not good, not excellent, perfect, every single one. Instructor noticed. The other instructors noticed. Suddenly, the quiet human girl who failed every physical test was showing something no other recruit had ever shown. How did you know the sniper was in the East Tower? One instructor asked after a particularly complex simulation. There were no visual signs, no audio clues, nothing. The birds replied. What? The simulation included environmental details. Birds, wind patterns, animal behavior. In the forest sections, birds sang everywhere except near the East Tower. Something had scared them away, something that did not belong, something waiting. The instructor was silent for a long moment. You noticed the birds. I notice everything. Word spread quickly. The strange human was some kind of tactical genius, but the physical test scores still stood. Instructor made sure everyone knew that brains meant nothing without the body to use them. She can think all she wants, he announced during evening assembly. In real combat, thinking takes too long. Instinct wins. Genetics win. Evolution wins. Humans evolved as prey animals who learned to throw rocks. That is all they will ever be. Sat in the back and listened. She did not argue. She did not react. She simply watched as he spoke, nodding the way his tail moved when he felt confident, the slight tremor in his second right arm that appeared when he was lying, the pattern of his packing that revealed he favored his left side. She was building her file on him piece by piece, every day, every moment, every word and gesture and breath. Sat beside her. He was starting to understand now, though the full picture was still unclear to him. You are not competing with them at all, are you? He whispered. Turned her head slightly. No. Then what are you doing? She looked back at Instructor, who was still talking about human weakness to the laughing crowd of alien recruits. Learning, she said softly, that is always the first step. The first step to what? Did not answer, but her eyes never left, and in their dark depths, something ancient and patient was waking up. Something that remembered what it meant to track prey across endless distances. Something that knew the value of waiting. The hunt had begun. She was simply choosing not to let anyone see. The survival hunt was the most famous test at the Academy. Every species feared it. Every species wanted to prove themselves through it. For 5 days, recruits would be dropped into a hostile jungle environment on a nearby moon. Their goal was simple: capture holographic prey targets while avoiding hunter drones controlled by the instructors. The recruit with the most captures would earn the title of top predator. This title meant everything. It decided rankings, assignments, and futures. On the morning of the drop, Instructor gathered the recruits in the transport bay. His 4 arms held different weapons, each one representing a different hunting style. The jungle will test your instincts, he announced. Your species spent millions of years evolving to hunt. Now we will see which of you truly deserves to be called a predator. The recruits were given basic supplies and dropped at different points around the jungle, landed in a dense section near a river. The air was hot and wet. Strange sounds filled the darkness between the massive trees. She did not move immediately. Instead, she sat down on a fallen log and waited. An hour passed, then 2, then 3. Other recruits were already hunting, could hear the distant sounds of movement, the whine of captured targets, the occasional explosion of a triggered trap. The mantoid cadet was making a lot of noise about half a kilometer to the east. Still waited. By sunset of the first day, she had not moved from her spot, but she had learned many things. She learned that the hunter drones passed her location every 47 minutes. She learned that the prey targets moved in patterns based on water sources. She learned that Instructor himself was observing from an elevated position 3 kilometers north, and that he checked his every time a high-value target was captured. She was mapping the entire game in her mind. Day 2 brought rain, heavy, warm rain that turned the ground to mud. Most recruits struggled. The Ursine cadets slipped and crashed. The mantoid cadets had trouble seeing through their compound eyes. Even found their scales too slippery to climb. Moved through the rain like she was made of water, silent, invisible. She did not hunt yet. She was still learning. She found 6 different observation posts where instructors watched the game. She identified 12 trap zones disguised as easy prey. She noted which recruits were succeeding and which were failing. Boasted loudly over the communication channel that night. 17 captures. Nobody can beat me. I am the apex predator. Had 0 captures. The other recruits mocked her on the channel. The human is probably dead, someone laughed. No, another voice said, it was. She is definitely not dead. Day 3, day 4, continued to observe. She ate the food she had brought. She slept in short bursts, never more than an hour at a time. She watched the stars through breaks in the canopy and calculated time by their movement. She had found what she was looking for, the phantom target. Every year, the instructors hid one special target that was nearly impossible to capture. In 15 years, no cadet had ever found it. It was worth more points than all other targets combined. Knew where it was. She had figured it out by watching Instructor. He checked his whenever a high-value target was captured, but there was one direction he never looked. One section of the jungle his eyes avoided completely. It was subtle, almost invisible, but had spent 2 months studying every tiny movement he made. The phantom target was hidden in a cave system 2 kilometers west of his observation post. He was avoiding looking at it because he knew it was there and did not want to give away its location. Day 5, the final day. Moved. She left her camp at dawn and began hunting, but she did not hunt like the others. She did not chase and grab. She set traps. She created diversions. She moved through the jungle like a ghost, appearing in one place and vanishing before anyone could react. The first hour, she captured 7 targets. The second hour, 12 more. By midday, she had collected 28 targets without being seen by a single drone or instructor. The communication channel exploded with confusion. What is happening? Who is capturing everything? Targets are disappearing before we can reach them. Something is wrong with the system. Was furious, his lead was vanishing. Show yourself, fight me fairly. Did not respond. She was already moving toward the cave system. The phantom target was protected by the most advanced security the Academy had. Motion sensors, heat detectors, sound monitors. Any normal approach would trigger an alarm and bring every drone in the jungle. Did not approach normally. She had spent 4 days studying the wind patterns. She knew exactly when the breeze would mask her heat signature. She had mapped the sensor blind spots by watching drone movements. She had noted that the sound monitors had a 2-second reset delay every hour when they recalibrated. She timed her entry to the second. Inside the cave, the phantom target glowed softly in the darkness. It was shaped like a rare creature from a dead world, beautiful and impossible. Captured it without hesitation. When she emerged from the cave, the sun was setting. She walked calmly back to the base camp, carrying all her captured targets in a bag she had made from jungle plants. The other recruits were already there, waiting for the final count. They fell silent when they saw her. Walked to the counting station and deposited her captures. The automated system counted once, then twice, then a third time to make sure. 43 targets, including the Phantom. Instructor stood frozen. His scales had stopped glowing completely. Stared with his compound eyes wide. "That is not possible. You were nowhere. We never saw you." Looked at him calmly. For the first time in 2 months, she spoke more than a few words. "You were not supposed to see me. That is the point of hunting. The prey never sees the hunter until it is too late." She paused and let her eyes move across the gathered recruits, finally stopping on Instructor. "You all thought you were the hunters here. You thought humans were the prey, but you had it backwards. We have always been the hunters. We just prefer to be patient about it." The jungle moon's sun disappeared below the horizon. In the growing darkness, his eyes seemed to glow with something ancient, something hungry, something that had been waiting for this moment since the day she arrived. The hunt was no longer secret. Now everyone knew. And they were afraid. The academy was different after the survival hunt, felt the change in every corridor she walked. Recruits who had laughed at her now stepped aside when she passed. Instructors who had ignored her now watched her with careful eyes. The word ghost was no longer an insult. It had become something else, a warning. But Instructor was not afraid. He was angry. For 2 weeks after the hunt, he pushed harder than any other recruit. Extra training sessions, difficult assignments, public criticism for the smallest mistakes. He was trying to break her spirit through pressure since he could not break it through mockery. Accepted everything without complaint. She ran when he told her to run. She lifted when he told her to lift. She endured every punishment with the same calm expression. Watched with growing worry. "He is going to kill you with this schedule." "No," replied, stretching her tired muscles. "He is teaching me." "Teaching you what? How to suffer?" She looked at him with those dark, patient eyes. "He is teaching me how he thinks. Every punishment shows me what he fears. Every criticism shows me what he respects. Every test shows me what he values." She paused. "He has taught me almost everything I need to know." The challenge came on a cold morning in the 3rd month of training. Instructor called for full assembly in the main combat hall. 300 recruits gathered around the sparring ring, their bodies creating a wall of scales and fur and chitin. In the center of the ring stood, his 4 arms holding 4 training blades. "We have a problem at this academy," he announced, his voice carrying to every corner. "Some recruits believe they can think their way to victory. They believe that tricks and patience can replace true warrior instinct." He let his eyes find in the crowd. "Today we correct this misunderstanding. Cadet, step forward." The crowd parted, walked through the gap and entered the ring. She was given a single training blade. It looked like a toy compared to weapons. "Full contact," announced. "No restrictions, no time limit. This match ends when one of us cannot continue." A murmur ran through the crowd. Full contact against an instructor was almost unheard of. It was not a test. It was a message, intended to destroy completely and prove that humans would never be true warriors. A human woman from the diplomatic corps who had come to observe the training stepped forward with a recording device. "This is highly irregular. The size and strength difference alone." The human wanted to prove herself, interrupted. "Now she has her chance, unless she wishes to surrender now and admit that humans are not meant for combat." Every eye turned too. She twirled the training blade once, testing its weight. Then she settled into a stance that no one recognized. It was low, balanced, almost relaxed. "I do not surrender," she said quietly. Smiled with all his teeth. "Then prepare yourself, ghost." He attacked. The storm of blades was the most famous technique of the warrior tradition. 4 arms moving independently, creating a wall of steel that no enemy could penetrate. It had killed thousands of opponents across hundreds of battlefields. No one had ever survived it through skill alone. Did not try to block, she did not try to parry, she simply was not there. Every strike missed by centimeters. Every thrust found only empty air. She moved like water, like shadow, like something that existed between moments rather than within them. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Pressed harder. His scales began to glow with exertion. His breathing grew louder. He was built for ambush hunting, for explosive bursts of violence that overwhelmed prey in seconds. He was not built for extended combat. Humans had evolved on the plains of Africa, chasing prey across endless distances under burning suns. They could not catch animals in a sprint. They did not need to. They simply followed hour after hour, day after day, until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence, that was the human weapon. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. His movements became slower. His strikes became wilder. Sweat dripped from his scales. His bioluminescence flickered with strain. Had not attacked once. She had not even tried. She was simply waiting, watching, letting him tire himself against her absence. "Fight back," roared, "stop running." "I am not running," replied calmly. "I am hunting." At the 4-minute mark, made a mistake. His rear left leg, the one he favored, finally gave out for just a moment. His weight shifted wrong. His second right arm extended too far. Moved. It was not fast by alien standards, but it was precise, perfect, absolute. One strike to the nerve cluster behind his primary knee. His leg collapsed. One sweep of her blade across his throat, stopping a millimeter from his scales. The hall was completely silent. Knelt in the ring, frozen, with his blade at his neck. His 4 arms hung uselessly at his sides. His scales had gone dark completely. Stepped back and bowed. It was a human gesture of respect, offered to a defeated opponent. "Persistence, predator," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That is what humans are. We do not need to be faster than you. We do not need to be stronger than you. We just need to be patient. We just need to learn you. And then when you are tired and confused and desperate, we end it." She lowered her blade. "You asked what humans really are. Now you know. We are the ones who never stop. We are the ones who always learn. We are the ones who wait as long as necessary." She looked around at the gathered recruits, at the shocked faces and wide eyes and trembling bodies. Every species in this room evolved to be the perfect predator in their environment. You became specialized. You became powerful. You became proud. Her eyes returned too. Humans did not specialize, we adapted. We generalized. We became whatever we needed to be to survive. That is our evolution. That is our weapon. She dropped the training blade at his knees. "Thank you for the lesson, Instructor. You taught me everything I needed to know." She turned and walked out of the ring, leaving behind 300 silent witnesses who would never again underestimate a human. Found her later, sitting alone on an observation deck, watching the stars. "You planned all of that," he said, "from the first day." Nodded slowly. "Why?" She was quiet for a long moment. Because someone needed to show them, not for pride, not for revenge, but because humans are spreading across the galaxy now, and everywhere we go, species like the look at us and see weakness. They push us. They hurt us. They believe they can do whatever they want because we are small and soft and slow. She turned to face him. "I wanted to teach them a different lesson. Not that humans are dangerous, but that we are patient, we learn, and we never ever forget." Sat beside her, looking at the same stars. "What happens now?" Smiled that small, rare smile. "Now they remember, and next time a human walks into a room, they will think twice before underestimating us." Far below them in the combat hall, Instructor still knelt where she had left him. His scales had begun to glow again slowly, but the color was different now. It was the color of respect, and perhaps underneath it all the faintest trace of fear. The academy changed after that day in the combat hall. It was not a loud change. There were no announcements or official statements, but everyone felt it in the air, in the way conversation stopped when walked past, in the way instructors nodded to her with something that looked almost like respect. Instructor was the most changed of all. 3 days after his defeat, he called to his office. She went alone, walking through corridors that had once felt hostile and now felt simply quiet. When she entered, she found him standing by a window, looking out at the stars. "Sit," he said. It was not an order, it was a request. She sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, then turned to face her. His scales glowed with a soft, steady light that had never seen before. It took her a moment to recognize it as the expression of deep thought. "I have been a warrior for 400 years, he said slowly. "I have fought 37 campaigns. I have killed more enemies than I can remember. I believed I understood what it meant to be a predator." He paused. "I was wrong." Said nothing, she waited. "You did not defeat me with speed or strength," continued. "You defeated me with patience, with observation, with understanding. You learned me like a hunter learns prey, and when the moment was right, you struck with perfect precision." He moved to sit across from her, lowering his massive body into a chair that creaked under his weight. "I would like you to teach." For the first time since she had arrived at the academy, showed surprise. "Teach. The things you know, the way you see, the patience you practice, these are not skills my species understands, but they are skills that could save lives in combat." He leaned forward. "I am asking you to help me become a better instructor. I am asking you to show my students what I could not." Studied him for a long moment. She looked at his posture, his scale patterns, the small movements of his 4 hands. She was reading him as she read everyone, and what she saw was genuine. "I will help," she said finally, "but not for credit, not for rank, not for recognition." "Then why?" "Because understanding between species matters. Because the more we learn about each other, the stronger we all become. And because," she paused, something almost warm entering her dark eyes, "because you asked, not ordered, asked." Nodded slowly. "Then we begin tomorrow." The months that followed were strange and wonderful. Taught classes on observation and patience. She showed recruits how to read body language, how to notice environmental details, how to wait for the perfect moment. Sat in on every session, learning alongside his students. The mockery of humans stopped completely. Noticed it first. Recruits who had once called them weak now asked questions about human endurance, human adaptability, human persistence. The word ghost became a title of respect. Other species began studying human hunting techniques. The mantoid cadets learned to slow down and observe before attacking. The Ursine warriors practiced patience exercises that helped them control their explosive strength. Even the proud started incorporating human tactical thinking into their training. Watched all of this with quiet satisfaction. She had wanted to change how the galaxy saw humans. She was succeeding beyond her expectations. But she knew it was time to leave. On the day of graduation, 6 military intelligence divisions offered her positions. The Galactic Defense Council wanted her as a strategic advisor. 3 planetary governments requested her as a security consultant. Each offer promised power, wealth, and influence beyond anything a human had ever been given. She refused them all. Found her in the transport bay, her small bag packed just as it had been on the day she arrived. "You are leaving," he said. It was not a question. "Yes." "Why, you could have anything here. Command fleets, lead armies, name your price." Smiled that small, rare smile. "I did not come here for rank or power. I came to learn, and now I have learned everything this place can teach me. So what will you do?" She looked out at the stars beyond the transport bay. There are other academies, other places where species look at humans and see weakness, other instructors who teach that we are prey instead of predators. She shouldered her bag. "I should introduce myself to them." Laughed despite himself. "You are going to do this again, at another academy and another, and another. Until everyone understands," confirmed. "Until every species in the galaxy knows what humans truly are." "And what are we?" She turned to face him fully. In the light of distant stars, her dark eyes seemed to hold something vast and ancient. The memory of endless plains, the patience of millions of years, the quiet confidence of a species that had never needed claws or fangs or venom to become the most successful hunters their world had ever known. "We are students," she said. "We learn everything, we adapt to anything, we persist through everything. That is our gift, that is our weapon, that is why in the end we will be standing when the rest have fallen." She stepped onto the transport. "Tell Instructor I said thank you. He was an excellent teacher." The transport doors closed. Stood alone in the bay for a long time after she left, watching her ship shrink against the stars until it finally disappeared into hyperspace. He never saw her again, but he heard about her constantly. Reports from the Andromeda Military Institute about a quiet human woman who topped every tactical assessment. Stories from the War College about a ghost who defeated their Grand Master in single combat. Rumors from a dozen different planets about a small, dark-eyed human who appeared, learned, conquered, and vanished. She never stayed anywhere long. She never built a reputation in any single place. She simply moved from academy to academy, species to species, challenge to challenge, learning, teaching, proving. Years later became an instructor himself. He taught at the same academy where he had trained, carrying on the work had started. And on the first day of every new class, he told his students the same story. There was once a human woman who came to this academy. She was small. She was quiet. She seemed ordinary in every way. Every species here believed they were superior to her. Every instructor believed she would fail. He would pause, letting his words sink in. She proved them all wrong, not through strength or speed or power, but through patience, through observation, through the simple, terrifying determination to learn her enemies better than they knew themselves. He would look at his students, human and alien alike. "She taught us that true hunters are not the fastest or the strongest. True hunters are the ones who never stop learning, the ones who never give up, the ones who wait as long as necessary for the perfect moment." He would smile. "She is still out there somewhere in the galaxy, still learning, still teaching, still hunting." He would end every lecture the same way. So if you ever meet a quiet human who watches more than she speaks, who learns more than she fights, who waits more than she acts, be very, very careful, because you are not the hunter in that story. You are the prey. Far across the galaxy, on a station orbiting a dying star, walked into a new academy. Her bag was small. Her expression was calm. Her dark eyes missed nothing. A massive, four-armed creature with crystalline skin looked down at her with contempt. "Another human," he sneered. "We will show you your place quickly enough." Said nothing. She simply nodded and found a seat in the back of the room. And she began to watch. The hunt continued. It always would.